Kim. Welcome back. This is lecture 2 of International Finance, which is combination of chapter 1 and 2. Now, before we start, let me tell you a little bit of logistics. So, I want to keep this lecture as in 20 minutes interval so that you will not get bored to death like crazy. So I'm going to keep my timer like this. So 19 minutes from now, my dog would bark, right? And then number 2, last time I told you about Goldman Sachs' new CEO. His nickname is what? DJ Sol, David Solomon, right? Why is it called DJ Sol? His hobby was EDM, electric DJ, right? Kind of things, right? And then, so I wanted to also build my hobby. I like music, by the way, and dancing, by the way, believe it or not. Okay. And then since last year, I purchased this launch pad myself, right? You see this, and simply I did not have chance or time to practice this one or learn about this one. But I take this as my opportunity to learn and practice my EDM a little bit. I may try some kind of strange sound, not to make you sleep, okay, to wake you up. So bringing some more fun factor in it. I hope you like it. So let's move to the chapters, right? Yeah. So what is this about? Well, chapter 1 and 2, I try to combine it, right? There's a reason why, because there's some redundancy in chapter 1 and 2 in terms of financial history. So let's see. We're going to start talking about what's special about international finance, right? And then we're going to talk about the goals for international financial management. Basically, it's going to be the shareholder value maximization as conventional financial management as well. But we're going to talk about a little bit about stakeholder value maximization as well. Then we'll move down to the fun part, which is globalization of world economy. Okay, and actually this part is talked about in chapter 1, and then is also mentioned in chapter 2 in various different ways. So I try to combine it. The whole idea is that there is a wave of globalization, right? Coming and going. You see this one, right? So sometimes the world, when it is peaceful, right? People start to do a lot of business cross borders, right? Because it's safe. It is safer or less risky to move the goods and services around, right? Sometimes there's political shocks internationally, so much so that people get scared to do international business. So globalization moves down. So there is a wave of coming and going. That's the whole story of it. And out of it, people try to learn and try to make the financial system more stable. And the system has evolved over time, so we're going to learn about that. A good example of it is euro. But at the same time, you see this euro, the system is being shaken right now because of Brexit and then sovereign debt crisis of Greece and that kind of things. So it's not something that is going to be stable all around in forever, but there is a lot of fluctuations that you have to expect in the future, right? Now, what else are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about a series of financial crises. Mexican peso crisis that I saw in my exchange student period, 1994. I never expected that kind of crisis would happen in Asia, but 3 years down the road, Asia was suffering from this currency crisis as well. Korea was one of the biggest victims over there. And then Argentine peso crisis was there, so we're going to talk about it. Then we'll move down to fixed versus flexible exchange rate regimes. And we're going to talk about multinational corporations a little bit. And then finally, we're going to discuss the new phenomena against globalization. Why did that happen? Because of bipolarization of income and wealth and all these kind of things. We're going to see that a little later. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Let's see. What's special about international finance? Well, three things comes to mind. One, foreign exchange risk and political risk. Two, market imperfections. And three is expanded opportunity sets. Let's go one by one. Foreign exchange risk, right? What is that about? This is risk that foreign currency profits may evaporate in local currency terms due to unanticipated and unfavorable exchange rate movements. So let's suppose you start to invest in Toyota Motors. 하지메 마시테, Toyota-san. And at the moment of your investment, you got $1. The dollar to yen exchange rate was 100 yen per $1. So you purchased 10 shares of Toyota, which is 10,000 Toyota, the Japanese yen per share, and it cost 1,000 US dollars using this FX rate. By the time you sell the shares, let's say 1 year later, and then the investment is worth 10% more. Good, right? Toyota earned some money out of there, right? So that the share price turned out to be 110 Japanese yen. Now, unfortunately, if the yen depreciated to 120 yen per dollar, right? 20% depreciation, then what must have happened to your investment? Was it 10% gain or some loss? It is a loss. And as you see, when you compute your investment performance using US dollar terms, it is 916.67 US dollars based on $1,000 of investment. So instead of gaining, you lost your money. Now, FX is such an important thing when you are investing in this kind of international companies and global companies, right? Here, the picture you see is monthly percentage change in Japanese yen to US dollar rate, month by month, right? Before 1970, you see almost no movement, right? We're going to talk about why that was the case, but afterwards, 1971, the FX rate, FX market has been very, very volatile, so that sometimes the Japanese yen to US dollar change by about 15% in 1990 something, right? So that's one thing we have to worry about in international finance. Number two is political risk. When it comes to political risk, geopolitical risk is most representative, I would say. And plus, you guys are in Korean Peninsula, so we need to talk about Kim Jong-un, the crazy guy in the north. Yes. By the way, the exchange students, welcome again, right? Because you guys must be a deep lover of Korean Peninsula. You came here despite the threat of that crazy guy in the north, right? Your parents and relatives must be very, very scared. Oh my God, he shot another missile yesterday or something. But don't worry, the guys have been doing that crazy things over the last 70 years. This is just business as usual. Whatever they do, we don't care, right? We just live. We just do our business. So tell your mom and dad we are doing just fine, okay? Don't worry. But another kind of political risk is taking place these days all around the world. The outbreak of disease or the infectious disease is another factor that we have to worry about from now on. Coronavirus 19, right, which started in China, Wuhan, about like early January or sometime, or even earlier than that, we don't know. It was devastating one whole state of China, which is Wuhan, and then what was that? The Hubei, right? A lot of people died and a lot of people got infected. What's the implication for business? Well, given that this is such an infectious disease, do you want to do your business as usual, meeting your customers face to face and sell your products and goods like that? Of course not, right? And then when it comes to international political arena, this kind of disease was spread out very fast, right? And it keeps on spreading. And this is precisely why we are doing this kind of video lecture. You know that, right? Um, and Korea, Japan, of course, your neighboring countries, Singapore, have been suffering a lot. Okay, and not only that, those countries that were connected a lot to China have been suffering a lot. Iran, right? Look at this picture of Iranian government official, high-level official. He got infected, of course. It's quite clearly you can see it in this picture. And some of these government officials even died of this disease. And then Italia is another one that got deeply infected, and then the economic activities were deeply affected by this one. And we are going to see how things will develop in the global arena, but let's hope it's going to settle down fast. But it's very, very tough. And not only the economic activity gets affected with this infectious disease, but also it destabilizes the politics, right? For example, in Korea, quite unexpectedly, right? Daegu, that area turned out to be the area with densely populated as well as densely infected. Okay, which was really unexpected surprise. Okay, it had to do with their religious or cult activities. The people who had this kind of Shincheonji activities was deeply connected to the people in Wuhan, and then they carried this disease from China. And then they were basically the economic activities in Daegu is almost dead right now. Okay, nobody wants to do business over there. The stores are closed. Everything is just stopped, right? Not only that, but also this part of the region turned out to be the region of opposition party in South Korean politics. So much so that the ruling party is now starting to play a blame game, okay? And then say, oh, this kind of things, you opposition party, or kind of you guys are deeply rooted into that cult, so that we are not to blame, but you guys are to blame. But the guys in the middle, like my kind of guys, right? They say, would you guys please stop fighting and then do something realistic, effective to prevent this disease from spreading more, okay? But it seems like the political rift or division is going to jeopardize the situation even more. Well, when it comes to political rift between left and right, left wing versus right wing, well, think about Donald Trump in the United States. And then if the disease gets spread out in the United States, what's going to happen over there, right? It's going to be disaster. So we have to be prepared for this kind of political uncertainty jeopardizing these health issues. And these kind of things will prolong the economic downturn in a U-shape depression kind of things. Very, very scary. Political risk is non-trivial. Another thing that I show you over here is refugee situation. These are refugees trying to go to Europe out of Syria, and then they are trying to cross the border of Turkey, I guess. Recently captured in the newspaper. And together with this, if we multiply this thing kind of phenomena by the infection factor or coronavirus disease, the situation will be a whole lot more complicated. So this kind of political risk will be deeply affecting our study of international finance. And on the other side, that makes our study much more fun, okay, much more interesting, I would say, instead of saying fun, okay. So sovereign government have the right to regulate the movement of goods, capital, and people across their borders. These laws sometimes change in unexpected ways. Outbreaks and all these kind of things will change the whole system. Okay, macro shock will be there. Number two is market imperfections. What do you mean? Well, in traditional economics, in theory, we were assuming the market to be perfect. Informationally, everybody knows everything else, and then informed decision is made quite rational way. We are not defying the rationality, okay? Rationality, we still assume it. But we assumed no impediments in transaction or market, like transaction cost or tax. We abstracted away from that kind of concerns before. But in international finance, those impediments are precisely the ones we have to study, okay? Transaction cost, tariffs or tax, and shipping cost, all these kind of things, we have to worry about it, okay? How does that make our transactions or valuations more complicated? Okay, that's going to be fun. One interesting case of market imperfection is Nestlé, Gerber, or Nescafe, or Nespresso company, right? In terms of product market, this must be the most globalized company, right? One of the most globalized companies in the world. But in terms of shareholder base, it was a different story. The thing is, the controlling shareholders, right, used to have this kind of mindset. Well, we don't want to lose our control to foreigners. Okay, we want to, dominate over here, control, so that still we want to attract the foreign monies as well. So what do? Well, divide the shares into two different classes. One class is for domestic shareholders. You got controlling rights, voting rights, about 65% of the voting rights, right, is registered shares. This is for domestic shareholders. The remaining part is distributed to foreign shareholders in the name of bearer shares. You still have voting rights, but minimal degree, okay? Just keep silent over there, right? Just get the dividend and then bye-bye, almost. That's it. So that was the situation before 1998, okay? But on November 18, 1998, Nestle lifted the restrictions imposed on foreigners. So they allowed them to hold registered shares from now on, okay? So guess what happened to the registered share price and then bearer share price? The demand for registered share price was only coming from Switzerland people, but now comes from the whole around the world. So the demand increased like crazy, right? How about the bearer shares? Demand was high from the outside world, but now you have another choice, which is registered shares, just like any other domestic Switzerland people. So the demand was going down. There's no difference between, almost no difference between these two classes of shares. The price must have been converging like this at the day of the announcement, right? This is market efficiency. Anyway, so good example about these impediments and the imperfections of capital market was shown by Nestle. Right. Following this, the price spread between the two types of shares narrowed dramatically. This implies that there was a major transfer of wealth from foreign shareholders to Swiss shareholders. Foreigners holding Nestle bearer shares were exposed to political risk in a country that is widely viewed as a haven from such risk. There's still a political risk inside going on, and imperfection in the market as well. And then Nestle episode illustrates both the importance of considering market imperfections and the peril of political risk. Now, what's special about international finance is expanded opportunity set. Expanded opportunity set, what it means is like it doesn't make sense to play in only one corner of the sandbox. It has to do with economies of scale, right? Nestlé, Switzerland. If it was restricted to Switzerland only, right? That's like the same company, small population. We cannot, you know, realize the economies of scale by expanding into foreign, global, serving global markets, by serving global citizens all around the world, right? Your demand is very high, and then your production can be more efficient, right? That's the idea. It is true for corporations as well as for individual investors, and then also from the investment perspective, right? Diversifying your portfolio to outside world or international world will benefit you in portfolio management perspective, right? So that's why expanded opportunity sets brings you to international finance. Now, the second part of these two chapters, the goals for international financial management, I'm going to talk about it later on.